We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg.
Welcome back to another episode of Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. This season we are covering the Netflix original series, The Chef Show, Season 1, Volume 1, and also Happy Valentine's Day.
Is this coming out around Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day, exactly.
Oh, well then happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
We're talking about Chef Show, Jon Favreau's love of food.
Some very lustful pasta making if you watched the movie.
Mm-hmm. So get ready, we're going to talk about that. If you don't know what Chef Show is, here's a brief description. In The Chef Show, writer, director, and food enthusiast Jon Favreau and Chef Roy Choi explore food in and out of the kitchen with accomplished chefs and celebrity friends.
Friends.
Today we are talking about episode 3, Chef Film Recipes, and episode 4, Remembering Jonathan Gold. But before we dive into those episodes, we are going to talk about what we've been up to in the kitchen, in the eating. How you doing, Meg?
I want to give a shout out to Sumo Citrus. These oranges are my heroes from January through April. They're only available in the winter for some reason. But these are maybe the best oranges I've ever had. They look really weird. They're wrinkly and bumpy and kind of squishy. They look like a strange navel orange, and they're called sumo oranges because they have a sort of bumpy knob on top. It kind of looks like a sumo wrestler's top knot. So I guess that's how they were named. They're super good. They're sweet. They don't have seeds. They're really easy to peel. You just grab that knob on top and peel it very easily.
Grab that knob.
I realized what I was saying as I was saying it, but it's too late now. I'm just going forward with that. But yeah, that's Sumo Citrus. Shout out to oranges in general, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of oranges, but I really like these.
Shout out to citrus.
Yeah. Thanks for, preventing us from getting scurvy. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. Get down with your bad selves.
Enjoy Sumo Citrus while you can. It's only here through April. What have you been up to, Justine?
Well, not super much, but I will say, remember how last time I talked about how I made the barbecue jackfruit and I had those in like little sandwiches? I ran out of bread, but I still had some leftover barbecue jackfruit, so I made a baked potato and I baked the potato just really in the microwave. This is all like, I'm doing my like leftovers dinner. So I just baked a potato in the microwave, heated up the barbecue jackfruit, put that inside the baked potato. And I did make a pesto. I made a kale walnut pesto. This whatever I had in my kitchen, okay? I'm that person now. I just whipped it up, threw some green onions on top of that, like happy little dinner of leftovers.
Shocked Pikachu face at mention of pesto.
Yeah, I know.
That sounds delicious.
Yes, it was. I do want to briefly shout out, I started watching Takeout with Lisa Ling.
Oh,
And we had talked about. I would recommend it, but my hot take is it's not as good as Taste the Nation. I know I don't want to directly compare the two, but they are kind of the same show. But Lisa Ling, she definitely has still has the news reporter vibe to her, whereas like Padma Lakshmi really got more into like the kitchen and stuff and is really more familiar with food, and she can come at it from like the food aspect more.
Have you seen Sola's appearance on Takeout?
Yes. I think she's on like episode 7. They do an episode on Bengali food. I like that episode the best. Sola is great.
What about the episode with Japanese Breakfast, aka Michelle Zauner? Have you watched that one? Author of Crying in H Mart.
Haven't gotten to that one yet.
She's an amazing musician, songwriter, author. I definitely want to see her and Sola on that show. I still have to check it out.
Enjoy. So we're going to move on over. Did my little moving dance.
Justine literally moved. Seems unnecessary, but okay.
Time to get into The Chef Show. Episode 3, Chef Film Recipes. Roy and Jon revisit the best dishes from Chef, including Scarlett's pasta. Andrew Rea of Binging with Babish joins to make chocolate lava cake.
Hey, that guy again.
Baby!
So this episode starts with them making the berries and cream. It's a whole lot of berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, with whipped cream on top. Exactly what you would expect based on the name of that. The recipe looked good. It looked simple. I would definitely make this.
Would you melt the sugar?
This was probably the most interesting part of the recipe, was making the caramel. So Roy said to just use all sugar to make the caramel and don't touch it. We've seen this many a time on Jibibo, just letting the caramel do its thing on the stovetop. But Jon said that Roy himself had taught him to use half water, half sugar. And Roy was kind of like, no, I didn't. But they decided to make dueling caramels, one that was all sugar, one that was half sugar, half water. In the end, they used Roy's all sugar one, but they never really circled back to how that sugar water one turned out.
Is it really a caramel without dairy?
I think so. I think you can make caramel with just sugar, or maybe it's just caramelized sugar and technically not a caramel, because you do need a lot of butter for a good caramel.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say caramel every way that you can possibly say it so that either no one or everyone will get mad at me.
Everyone, I think, is the answer. This is the internet we're talking about.
That's true. All the elements of this recipe look good. I've never caramelized sugar by this method before, so might be kind of fun to give that a try. And then they break up the caramel and make it into dust. I think they called it like glitter dust or something. What did they call it? They had a funny name for it.
Sugar dust?
It was something fanciful. Either way, they put the dust of the sugar
Fairy
on top
dust?
of the whipped cream.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple recipe. I think any of our listeners could make it if they tried. They can do with or without the melting sugar on high heat on their stove, but they can, just try macerating some berries, adding some mint, and try making your own whipped cream if you want, or get it out of the...
It's easy.
The tub.
I encourage everyone to try making your own whipped cream. It's easy and fun.
Yeah, it is pretty easy. If you're scared, don't be, because it's just still all going to taste good in the end.
Yeah, it's cream with sugar. What can go wrong?
So this might be, fun date night dessert.
It also will remind you of Berries and Cream Lad on TikTok, and then you'll have that song in your head forever. So you're welcome / I'm sorry.
Not on my TikTok.
You're lucky then.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about Scarlett's pasta now? Do you want to give me the rundown of what is Scarlett's pasta?
I don't really want to, because I honestly hated this scene. So let me paint a picture for you. I think that you would probably have something to say about the scene, being a video editor yourself, because I felt like it was edited horribly, and I am not an expert. But it shows Jon preparing this pasta dish, and the entire time Scarlett is draped seductively across the bed, just watching him with rapt attention, and she looks very lustful. And I'm like, am I really to believe that the entire time he's making this dish, she is just watching him, practically drooling with sexual energy? I don't know. It really drove me crazy. I felt like it was very voyeuristic in a way that I think I was watching someone else's fetish, and I was just like, this is a weird scene. I don't really like this. But the pasta itself looked good. I mean, pasta is sexy. It's not that sexy. I don't think I would watch someone make an entire pasta dish and be like, oh, I'm so in love and enraptured. Oh.
Do you have breadsticks with that?
But the pasta looks good. Looks simple.
Yeah, really easy pasta. I'd say so myself. It's mostly olive oil.
Yes.
Dipping pasta in flavored olive oil when it comes down to it in the end. What's wrong with that?
Even though they called it Scarlett's pasta, this is aglio e olio, I guess is its official name, which just means garlic and oil. Those are kind of the two main flavor profiles in here. So we've got that. Spaghetti is the pasta being used, some Parmesan, some butter, lemon, parsley, and chili flakes. I think that's only 7 ingredients. I think that's what Babish said. So very simple, really easy ingredients to get your hands on. I think this looks like a good dish.
Yeah. Also, they mentioned that you really don't need to mandolin so many garlics.
Even though I've used a mandolin for crazy things like almonds, I don't think I would mandolin the garlic. Or use a razor blade like in The Godfather, which they were also talking about.
If you're at home, maybe you just even want to use garlic that's already minced.
I mean,
maybe you do.
Mince it yourself. Sorry, I don't want to be a snob,
maybe
but
you want to
get a nice head of garlic. Mince it by whatever method
I'm
you feel
trying
is
to
easiest.
get people to just dip their toes into the cooking.
Okay.
Tiny toe dip. But we will say flavor will be better if you mince it yourself.
Yes, absolutely. There were lots of hot takes and very, very cold takes on pasta water in this segment. They tell you to save the pasta water. Of course, we know that. No, I'm just kidding. It's something we've heard as a refrain many a time over the life of our podcast now. So it's just kind of funny to hear and see how often it really does pop up everywhere. And Roy also said that you can add a little oil to your pasta water, which I know is highly contested among cooks and chefs. I guess I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't personally oil my pasta water. I feel like it's unnecessary. They said, do it at home if you're just cooking at home for fun and who cares, and then your pasta won't stick together. But I feel like that's not a big problem for me.
Yeah, I don't have that issue. I mean, I stir it when I put it in there so it doesn't clump.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're paying attention to your pasta, it should be all good. And serving it hot, don't let it stick around and stick to itself when it's cold and drained or whatever.
Oh my God. He ate that pasta so fast. He's like, you gotta eat it now. It's only good right now. And then he went...
Yeah, it made me wonder
damn.
What it's like if you let it sit. What happens, Roy?
What happened?
And we've also heard the suggestion to make your pasta water as salty as the sea. We've heard this many a time, but this is the first time I've heard someone suggest using actual, literal seawater for your pasta.
Dude, don't use the seawater down here in LA. It's all polluted.
Yeah, I don't think I would be doing that, personally.
Yeah. Hot tip, don't go to the beach to collect water to drink or use in your cooking. But yeah, very simple. This is probably maybe stuff that you have in your kitchen already. Maybe you want to go out and buy some fresh parsley and some fresh garlic, and then there you go. A romantic dinner.
You're really leaning heavily on the Valentine's Day angle here.
Yeah, tent poles. That's marketing right there.
Ah, yes, romance. One of the classic tent poles of Pod Appétit.
Exactly. Our listeners know they're very romantic. I'm not being sarcastic. All our listeners are lovely people. All right, you ready for another dessert?
I am.
Our boy Babish, our bitty baby Babish.
Friend of the podcast, Babish, is here to make chocolate lava cake with Jon. Also, clearly a friend of Jon. Babish goes on to say about how he's a huge fan of Chef the movie. And if you're not familiar with Binging with Babish, this is his YouTube channel, which really got put on the map because of his recipes where he recreates dishes from pop culture. So him recreating a dish from Chef the movie is really 100% in his wheelhouse. And he did make Scarlett's pasta for his Binging with Babish channel, which was a huge hit. It's up to almost 10 million views now. So he seemed very grateful to Jon and Chef and all that for essentially helping his channel, helping build his career because of the popularity of that movie. And he's such a fan that he got a tattoo on his forearm of the carving fork with the pasta on it, which Jon used to plate Scarlett's pasta in the movie and in the show. So he's super mega fan.
He seemed really nervous.
He did seem really nervous. I thought that was funny because he's so obviously in control of his own channel. He's the guy in charge. But seeing him take the lead with Roy Choi there, I think he was nervous because of Roy, because Roy is an actual chef and Babish has just sort of made a living off of. I mean, Babish is very talented, but he doesn't have the same bona fides that Roy does.
Well, do you think he was nervous too with celebrity Jon Favreau there?
I think that as well. He did have a little bit of hero worship going on, it looked like. And then Jon gifted him the fork from the chef movie that he just got the tattoo of.
I'm sure it was the same exact fork from the set.
He said it was, but who knows? He could be lying or mistaken.
Lies.
And then he made a joke about how he was going to order 6 more and then tell the next person he gave it to that was the fork from the movie.
The fork. Yeah, so Babish got to direct the 2 fellas in a little mini Benjamin Babish right there on set, and to do it the way that he would do it. And it was Babish's recipe, or looking at I don't know where he was getting the recipe from. Remember, he got the recipe wrong a little?
Yeah, he kept consulting his phone. I think he was double checking the recipe on his phone. So yeah, I was curious to know whose recipe it was exactly, because they positioned Babish as sort of the expert on the recipe, but it clearly was not his. So I'm not really sure.
I mean, it still came out fantastic.
Oh, it looked so good. I'm not a big fan of lava cake because it's just chocolate on top of chocolate, and chocolate's not my favorite type of dessert. But I love cake. This looked beautiful. This is the best looking lava cake I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty gorgeous. I mean, I'm not going to turn down a chocolate lava cake. Love me some chocolate.
And Roy described it as a souffle, which I'd never really thought of before. Molten lava cake being more like a souffle than a cake. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. It does have that nice souffle texture to it.
Yeah, just a quick, easy breezy segment. I like how Babish was like, okay, it has to look exactly like it did in the movie, because that's his shtick.
Yeah, he plates it to look precisely like how it looks in the show or the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like watching a mini Binging with Babish, which we like.
Mm-hmm. People can make this at home too.
A little bit more complicated than the berries and cream, I would think.
Choose your own adventure. All right, so the next segment, the last segment of this episode, is beignets again.
Again. What a weird, unnecessary segment. I can only assume that Cafe du Monde heard about the first attempt and was getting a little worried that their product would be misrepresented on a very big, very popular show. And they were like, oh, hey, John, could you maybe, do that again? I'm just really curious to know how this happened, because since it was a Netflix show, I have to assume that the whole season dropped at the same time. So, like, why not just edit out the first failed segment? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But it just seemed odd. There was a lot of apologizing going on, and that's all it seemed like was a big apology to Cafe du Monde. And they kept saying things like, this isn't sponsored, we just love Cafe du Monde. So, yeah, it definitely felt there for John and for Cafe du Monde, and not so much for the viewer. Not my favorite part of the episode.
Mm-hmm. It was just, I was just like, ugh, deja vu. I just watched this. Like, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The box is not expired now. I mean,
oh, yeah. The box isn't expired. And despite all that, despite them being really careful this time and mindful, Roy still seemed not that impressed to me. So I was kind of like, what was the point of this even? I don't understand.
yeah, such a disappointment of an ending to an episode where I'm just like, is this over?
Yeah, just get rid of this part of the episode. Listener, if you haven't watched this episode yet, you can just skip the Cafe du Monde part.
It's the same thing. They make beignets.
The end.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will be talking about episode 4. And we're back. Episode 4, Remembering Jonathan Gold. Late food writer Jonathan Gold's reviews help so many chefs. Jon and Roy honor his memory with KCRW's Evan Kleiman and Jitlada's Jazz Singsanong.
So I just want to issue a correction and apology of my own at the top of this, because in our last episode, I said that the chef show didn't feature any female chefs until season 1, volume 3. And I had just been quickly skimming the episode descriptions as we were recording. So I guess I must have accidentally skipped over this episode description somehow. So that's my bad. We do have a couple of women chefs in this episode, and I just want to say my apologies to the chef show, but I will also say I hope this trend continues. I hope this is not the only episode we watch this volume with women chefs, and I guess that remains to be seen.
All right. So we start out the show a little differently over on Abbot Kinney in Venice, California.
Both of these episodes were in Los Angeles. That's where these took place.
Yeah, so Roy was recounting about how he used to have the Kogi truck right there on Abbot Kinney. Basically talking about his relationship, how he met Jonathan Gold, the food writer that the whole episode is dedicated to, and just how Jonathan's review really helped launch, Kogi.
This episode, like the first few episodes, does not do a lot of introduction of the guests or who they're speaking about. And I feel like it was really necessary here because, just speaking for myself, I did not know who Jonathan Gold was. This episode felt even more insider baseball than other episodes so far because I was like, I don't know who that is. So listener, if you're like me, I looked up who Jonathan Gold is. He was the chief food critic for the Los Angeles Times, and he also wrote for LA Weekly and Gourmet. And he was a regular contributor to KCRW's Good Food radio program. And Evan Kleiman, another of the guests, she is also the host for Good Food Radio. So this is how Evan and Jonathan definitely knew each other. And Evan is also a chef and a restaurateur. And the final guest, Jazz Singsanong, is the restaurant owner for Jitlada, which is a Thai restaurant. So these are all the personalities in this episode, in case you need a little bit more context like I did.
Literally, they go in, they're like, oh yeah, the KCRW pie contest. And I'm like, the what now?
The who and the what?
Oh yeah, everybody knows that.
So basically, this episode was framed around sort of a glowing, fond remembrance of Jonathan Gold, who passed away in 2018. He had touched all these people's lives in different ways. He had been a colleague of Evan's. He had reviewed Jazz's restaurant, Jitlada, which really put her restaurant on the map. And it seemed like he was just an all-around good guy for wanting to advocate for smaller restaurants and smaller businesses. Roy was saying that if he went to a small restaurant that he didn't like, he would just simply not write a review about it. He wasn't going to punch down. He wasn't going to badmouth the little guy. So it seems like he was a big personality in the food scene in LA.
That is such a great, amazing statement of like, not going to say anything bad if he doesn't like it. I want more people to do that.
The world would be a much better place. Promote the stuff you love, the stuff you hate. You could maybe just keep that to yourself.
Yeah, so what are we making in this episode? We're making a peach galette.
Making a peach galette with Evan. I also want to give a shout out to one of our listeners, Mrs. Casper, who said that Evan Kleiman is her favorite episode of the Chef Show. And, quote, she's who I wish I was, end quote. I really liked all the guests in this episode. I thought that Evan had a great laugh. She was really fun and funny. And I also appreciated that Evan seemed very interested in Jazz's technique. You would always see her in the background when Jazz was cooking something, just kind of being like, oh, what's she doing? And asking questions and wanting to know why and how Jazz does things. So I liked these guests individually. I liked them together. And that peach galette looked amazing. It looks so good.
Yeah, going off of what you said, that's something I really enjoyed about this episode, and something we don't see very much is like chefs from like two different worlds like helping prepare each other's food. Like Jazz makes Thai food, and at least in this episode, Evan is pastry chef. So they're just going along being like, oh, so how would I cut this? And then they're just showing how, like, great, I can help and do that. They have like a baseline language in the food language, but they're still learning from each other. And I was like, this is really interesting as like a show premise.
Definitely. And I also liked how Roy and Jazz interacted because they're both Asian American and they were kind of ribbing each other about their different techniques. They were saying like, oh, Asian people peel food outwards and American people peel food inwards. And she was like, well, yeah, you're an American boy. So it was really funny to see them share some parts of their shared culture and heritage a little bit, but also, they're very different people. They've got different backgrounds. He's Korean, she's Thai, he's American born. I don't know about Jazz, whether she's an immigrant or American born, but I got the impression that maybe she had immigrated to the US, but it's really fun to see all this interaction between the guests here.
Roy pointed out that he was doing it the French trained way. So
Oh, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting little things like that. And I will also say later on in the episode, Jazz talks about taking her daughters into the kitchen because there's nobody at home to watch them. And I'm like, oh, this totally speaks to women in, working women. Like, it falls onto the women often to be like, oh, I got to be the one taking care of the kids. So I either stay with them or they come with me,
Yeah, exactly. It definitely had a little bit of those stories we saw a lot in Taste the Nation.
Mm-hmm. And it's not something men really have to worry about very often as they're growing their careers.
Yep. Jazz was also a big proponent of growing a lot of your own ingredients. She kept saying over and over, like, oh, you can grow this in your garden. You can save this scrap of the plant. You can use it as a starter to grow in your garden. I really liked that ethos. I would love to do more gardening myself. And it's also interesting to hear a big-time restaurateur say stuff like that, because it made me wonder, oh, well, how much of the ingredients in her restaurant are homegrown or grown by the restaurant? And it's an approach that I can get behind.
Totally. And the sustainability aspect, and then the, nothing gets left behind, everything gets used. She even was like, oh, with the little shrimp scraps, they'll help grow your tree.
And Jon says, you'll grow a shrimp tree?
But anyway, so when they're making the peach galette, I really liked how Evan's personality was. She didn't let the boys touch too much. She was like, oh no, we're doing this.
And then Jon messed up the dough and she was like, oh, stop touching it.
Yeah. Because in previous episodes, we're learning that the boys, especially Jon, really likes to get in there. He really likes to grab and take hold of whatever is happening and being like, this is how I'm learning. We're doing this. And she's just like, why don't you just watch for a minute?
Yeah. She's also saying that Jonathan Gold was usually the tiebreaker in this pie contest they referenced. But one year there was a chicken pot pie galette that was contentious because it was technically a galette, not a pie. But apparently this one time she overruled Jonathan and was like, nope, this one's the winner, even though it's a galette. And he never forgave her. No, but I think that's a good way of sort of illustrating her personality. She's definitely not gonna take crap from anyone, it didn't seem like. She just wants to make good food and recognize good food.
Yes. And it's interesting, too. She made this galette in a Pyrex pie dish, and she called it a pilot. Pilot.
I do like this hybrid pie galette approach she has, because I do like that it gives it structure and a little bit of depth, which is kind of why she said she used the Pyrex glass tin. I realize that's not a thing. But anyway, she used the glass dish. Thank you. And she said that you can also look at the bottom of the crust without, taking the whole pie out and see if the crust is done just by looking through the dish itself. It seems like a nice compromise of the two desserts, but I liked that it was still the free form dough on top where you just kind of fold it together galette style, which I think that's probably what I would do because it's easier.
Yeah, and with something so juicy like peaches, I think it would hold better in the dish.
Juicy, but doesn't run everywhere. She also said the best pie is the pie you're eating.
I think she's a woman after my own heart.
Yeah, definitely.
So for this next segment, and actually the few next segments, because the galette actually just takes a minute. They just put it in the oven. They're like, okay, let's get on to cooking with Jazz, making some Thai food. And this very much reminded me of, we just watched the Thai episode of Taste the Nation. And I'm like, I know how much we all love Thai food here.
That's true. I guess we won't repeat ourselves too much. We're all big Thai food fans. She makes green curry, pad Thai, and pad Ki Mao. All excellent dishes. And all of these she makes in a wok, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if I've seen these dishes actually prepared, because I was like, oh, are they always prepared in a wok? I wasn't sure. And it was really funny to see Jon trying to man the wok because he seemed a little nervous especially by all the big flames. I mean, I know I would be too. If that dish were flaming up at me, I would be like, no, thank you. I think I'll just step away for a while.
Everything was on fire. So much fire. What was also interesting is that she steamed nearly everything. Definitely the chicken and a lot of the vegetables before going in to the wok.
I did think her approach was interesting about how she thought about the cook times of the different ingredients. She seemed to really know what texture she wanted to achieve in the end. So she would cut the onions a different way for one dish versus another dish because the end result would be different. She would add onions at different intervals throughout the recipe so that some would be more cooked down while some would be crunchier and fresher at the end. And Roy was sort of commenting on her technique like, oh, you do everything differently and that's different than it was before. But it's not willy-nilly. It's not arbitrary. She clearly knows what she's setting out to do. And it seems like it might just be a technique all her own, maybe.
Yeah, she also pretty much uses what she has in her kitchen that day, too. She's like, oh, if I had basil, I'd throw that in there. And so they got basil. She's very much like we were just talking about sustainability in her cooking, using what she has. But she's got the end goal of that taste and texture that she knows what she wants. So she's like, oh yeah, throw this in there. We got this. Oh yeah, that'll be good in this. Because she knows so intimately the end result of the dish.
It's definitely a mark of a good chef. And we see that a lot in the shows that we watch for Pod Appétit, that they have the ability to improvise, that if they don't have the exact ingredients that they would usually use, they're like, oh, well, what's a good analog? What will get me to the end result that I'm looking for? And the green curry, I could tell through the screen how spicy that was. I felt like I was sweating just watching it. I was like, oh, that looks really good, but I feel like it would also blow my face off.
So spicy. Too much. It was too spicy for her.
Yeah. She started adding more coconut milk to try to mellow it out a little bit.
Oh, there's no going back. Do you have any notes on the pad thai?
I didn't have big notes except that it looked good. It looked very tasty.
Never go wrong with a pad thai. Oh, God. Love pad thai.
I love pad thai. Pad ki mao is definitely up there for me, too. And pad siu. These are kind of like my 3 heavy hitters when I order Thai food.
I don't think I've ever had pad ki mao. What is all in it again? Let's Google what is pad ki mao? Drunken Noodles. Oh, well, I definitely heard of it when it's called Drunken Noodles.
It's tasty.
They are called Drunken Noodles because of the stories behind them. There's no alcohol in this recipe. The story is that drunk people would try to quench their thirst with these noodles before finding out their spice level. Nice. Oh, God, I want some right now.
I can see it being a good hangover food. I would definitely go for that.
We just fully endorse Thai food in this podcast, and we'll never say a bad thing about Thai food.
In this podcast, we love Thai food.
We gotta stop doing shows with Thai food on because it just makes us hungry during recording.
I know. It's past my lunchtime, Justine. We gotta wrap this up so I can eat something.
So it was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I definitely liked these 2 episodes more than the first 2. I liked that there was just a lot more cooking. In the Avengers Atlanta episode, there was just a lot of chatting, which is fine, but I do enjoy these episodes that have more of an emphasis on the food.
Yeah, and I really liked getting to know these chefs and bringing people in to show off their dishes. I know the first episodes were, largely Roy's and the chef movie recipes, and now we're starting to really, I think, expand, and maybe it continues like that, where John learned some things from other people.
Yeah.
They gotta run out of stuff to reference in Chef eventually. There's more episodes.
One would assume / hope.
Now we're gonna move on to our back burner. Oh man, so saw this tweet the other day from Dolly Parton. Guess what she's doing?
Making vaccines?
Yeah, making vaccines. She's got her own Duncan Hines Southern Love limited edition baking kits with her favorite flavors, coconut and banana pudding. You can make a Dolly Parton cake. Oh my God, with Dolly Parton frosting.
Southern Lovin', happy Valentine's Day.
I am all for it. I love Dolly Parton. Who doesn't? Her face is on the box. She looks like a freaking Barbie, and it's beautiful in pink. And I kind of just want the box. It's gorgeous.
I'm sitting here trying to think of a working 9-to-5 pun, but I'm coming up with nothing. So, listener, fill in your own joke here.
After you're done working 9 to 5, you can go home and bake a Dolly Parton cake.
There you go. Good enough.
Did I do it?
Bacon 9 to 5? Is that anything?
Ooh, we're baking 9 to 5.
There we go.
Yeah, let us know if you see this on the shelves or wherever it's sold. If you go pick it up, let us know how you enjoy some Dolly banana cake.
Make some for your Valentine.
It's a little late now. No.
It's a box cake. It's not too late to make that.
Okay. Moving on over, we've got news again from Rick Martinez and Carla Lalli Music. They are still making a podcast.
They announced this quite a while ago, but no more details had been forthcoming until recently. But now we have a title, a name for the podcast, and it looks like they're actually recording it.
The name of the podcast, Borderline Salty. Ooh. That's better than our name.
And also something really fun about their podcast is that they put out a call to action for answers or questions or input from listeners, or I guess future listeners. And they have a phone number that you can call to give them your response, which is apparently 833-433-FOOD. And their most recent question is, what scares you? An ingredient, a dish, an appliance, a specific person that you're cooking for, anything. We're here to help you through it. So I'm guessing maybe this is what their first episode will be about.
Very similar, as we pointed out last time, to home cooking. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. home cooking, yep.
But yeah, so call in. That's 833-433-FOOD. And you can leave a message and maybe you'll be on their podcast. Or you can email us and you could be on our podcast. podappetitpodcast@gmail.com. All right, that's our back burner. Time to mosey on over. Why am I in the mosey mood today?
It was Dolly Parton. She put you in the moseying mood.
Yes. We're going to do our shout outs now. Thank you to everyone who is excited about our new season and is watching Chef Show along with us. We loved all the enthusiasm for it. And to Joshua Solbeck on Instagram, make that Cuban and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, I already know that he and his wife are master cocktail mixers, so I have faith that they can make this Cubano sandwich.
Oh my God, yes. Tag us, let us know. Speaking of people tagging us, thank you to Ravenelle on Instagram for sharing the Nadia Bakes recipes that they're making. Love seeing them. You are doing so awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving following along with your recipe adventures.
Yes. Thank you to the Unwritable Rant, a fellow Lithuanian. And ChiGuyFood, hey Jen Owens, Claire Lee, and Margaret for weighing in on Meg's Lithuanian Christmas bread. Everybody was like, stop. What? This is amazing.
If you want the recipe, it's in the show notes for that episode. So if you go to the Taste the Nation potluck episode, it's right there in the notes with a handy little link.
Yeah, you can access that through our website as well. Thank you to BottledUpBitches for rating us on Spotify and dropping us a ton of likes on Instagram. And thank you to everyone who participated in the great battle between pancakes and waffles. Did you see who won?
I believe pancakes won in the poll, but it looked like waffles had more fans in the comments.
Yes. The pancake people are a bit shy. It narrowly won. It was like 50-50 through most of it. So I guess, yeah, waffle people just like shouting it from the rooftops that they love waffles.
Well, what about you, Justine? What's your answer?
Pancakes.
Oh, I'm pancakes too. Pancakes represent.
Why it's for me pancakes? Because you have to have a waffle maker to make waffles.
Good point. Why it's pancakes for me is because, in general, I'm a soft, chewy person over a crispy, crunchy person. So waffles are crispy, crunchy. Pancakes are soft and chewy. I like that soft, chewy griddle cake. Yum, yum. Although I do like BottledUpBitches' comment, which was that waffles are friendlier pancakes since they hold the syrup for you.
I
do like that about waffles.
They're friendlier. They're like, don't worry, boo, I got you. I'm
not letting any of the syrup get away. Don't you worry.
I like how we both put our hands up like we were the waffles.
We're waffles. We're little Atlas-like waffles.
Why don't we do a video podcast? I think people would like it. Thank you, everyone, for getting in touch with us on social media. Don't forget to check out our Threadless store, podappetit.threadless.com, if you'd like to get some cool merch. I've got my own Pod Appétit mug right here on my desk. It holds my pens. It reminds me how cool I am because I got a mug with my podcast name on it.
Hell yeah.
A hoodie. I wore that out in public yesterday to the park, being like, oh, look at me. I'm going to make friends showing off my Pod Appétit hoodie.
I got our Andy Warhol design on a tote bag, which I think is the perfect item for that design because the tote bag is a nice square shape and it beautifully showcases the whole design. It's really colorful and cute.
Mm-hmm. Next time, we are continuing in Season 1, Volume 1 with Episode 5, Robert Rodriguez / First Friday, and Episode 6, David Chang. Join us next time on Not Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day!
Bye!
Bye! Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appetit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Sunny Hepburn.
And I'm Brandy Fleeks.
And this is
Book of Lies,
the podcast, where we discuss liars, cheats, and thieves,
scammers, and dirty rotten scoundrels.
So tune in for new episodes every Tuesday to hear about another low-down dirty liar.
And learn how to spot them.
So that's Book of Lies podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast player or on Twitter at Book of Lies Pod, on Instagram at Book of Lies Podcast, and on Facebook at Book of Lies Podcast.
And if you want to send us an email, send us one at bookofliespodcast@gmail.com.
Okay?
Bye-bye!